What up, witches?
That was fast. Hi, witches. We have a guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself, say your name and your pronouns?
Sure. Hi, witches. My name is Alyssa, or sometimes I go by Lyss, and my pronouns are she or they.
Kaya, do you want to read the one that I wrote, or do you want to read the one that's like on Google?
I'll do the Google one. Let's make this interesting.
Okay.
So, first and foremost, today we're going to be discussing the movie Practical Magic, which I have never seen,
Woohoo!
but Kyla and Alyssa have both seen. And their goal today is to get me to watch it. So, right now, first and foremost, I'm going to look up a badly written synopsis of the movie. Sally and Gillian Owens, born into a magical family, have mostly avoided witchcraft themselves. But when Gillian's vicious boyfriend, Jimmy Angelov, dies unexpected, a vicious boyfriend dies unexpectedly. Why do they use the word vicious? The Owen sisters give
Because
themselves a crash course in hard magic.
he's like a bad,
He's a bad bitch. With policeman
not
Gary,
like a bad bitch in the positive sense. He's like a bad guy, like just
he's a shit.
no good, rotten evils. Like he's a piece of shit.
Okay. With policeman Gary growing suspicious, the girls struggle to resurrect. Shut the fuck up. Jimmy, and unwittingly inject his corpse with an evil spirit that threatens to end their family line. What the fuck? All right, y'all got a lot of work to do tonight.
So when it says like evil spirit that threatens to end their family line, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know how accurate that is. Yeah, I don't know. I think also his name is spelled with a V. It's Angelo, right? It's Angelo.
Okay, I was trying to reconcile that too because I always thought like when I watched this movie in the past, I thought it was Angelo with a W, but then the I watched it with closed captioning yesterday for the first time and it had a V at the end, like Angelov.
Yeah.
So I don't actually know which one is right, but that's kind of
There's a part where Jill says his name over and over and she goes, Angelo, Angelo, Angelo. I'm
Angelo.
like,
Yeah, I remember.
so
Yeah, I mean, name aside, he is like the definitely like the antagonist, the villain of the
mhm.
plot. Not a good, um, like morally good character.
It's a Russian name, and it looks like it's spelled, excuse me, pronounced Angelo with a
With
at
a
the end.
F.
Oh,
Yeah, so
interesting. Okay,
maybe they just didn't like enunciate the last letter.
maybe not. I know Jillian mentions that he's Bulgarian, so
Mm. Something important that you should know for the plot is the Owens family has an ancestor named Maria, and she was a witch, and she had a lover and she was scorned by this lover. She cast a spell so she would never fall in love again because she doesn't want to have her heart broken again. Her over time, the spell turned into a curse just because like she had so many like icky feelings, basically. And
Hmm.
now any man who dares to love an Owens woman is destined to die.
All right.
the focal point of the story is Sally and Jillian and their sisters, and their mother had like the children with her husband who died, and as soon as she heard like the sound of like this beetle, it
Mhm.
meant like his death was like imminent. So he died, and then she like died of a broken heart, they say in the story. And so then we just kind of watch the girls grow up with their aunts who are also like actively like practicing witches.
Aunt Frances.
Yes, Aunt Frances and Aunt Jet, I believe her name is.
Yeah.
um and then like Jillian decides to kind of like run away and start a new life in, I think, Florida, and then Sally stays like in the Salem area and eventually falls in love and raises two kids of her own who are a lot similar to like her and her sister Jillian, because like one has red hair, the other has brown hair, and they're just kind of similar in personality too. And what else? Oh, the reason that she even fell in love in the first place was because like the two aunts like cast a spell
Oh
on her in the
yeah.
sky to like make it so that she could just like be a little happier, and she wanted to like fit in and be normal with everyone else and not like be a witch. um and so they did that just so she'd just kind of be like a little less, like I said, less lonely, fit in more, feel be a little happier. So basically they just like wanted her to have some fun and didn't expect her to like, actually fall in love with him and him with her. But yeah, they like start a family and everything, and then he dies too. And she's very brokenhearted about it, but um it ends up bringing like her sister home. If I'm um Kyla, if
Um,
you want to like jump in, you can.
yeah, so yeah, she has this family with the guy that the aunt cast a spell on. And they do this whole fake out because he's like a fruit merchant, and he's like taking this fruit across the street, and there's like a bike race going on, and they make you think that he's gonna get like ran over by all these bikes, but then he's safe. And then he's like, ah, and then the camera cuts away, and then it cuts back, and he gets hit by a truck. So, and before that, like, Sally was hearing the beetle, and like she knew what the beetle meant, and she could hear it ticking. She was trying to dig up her floorboards to, I don't know, kill it, maybe stop it from happening. But I think it's because he dies that Jill comes home.
Yeah, like she comes home to like comfort her basically.
Yeah, it's really sweet. It's like I don't have a sister, but like it looks like a really sweet sisterly love type of thing. Like she's really depressed in bed, and her sister kind of like stays in bed with her like for, I don't know, what seems like at least one whole day, if not like longer than that. She's telling Jill about like their lives and everything and what they were hoping to do.
Yeah, they were gonna like open up a botanical shop together where like the ingredients were the fruit and like the produce that he worked with. And um Sally has a lot of like knowledge from like the herbal part of like witchcraft, like ingredients to use and making like potions and like solutions that like actually are like good for you, like work for your skin, work for like your health and stuff, like address like different health issues. So they had that like shared passion together that they were going to use to open up a business. And it was just, yeah, it's like, I agree, I don't have a sister, I don't have siblings at all, but it was just like a really sweet like look at how like strong platonic love can be, and like how strong like sibling bonds can be. So I thought that was really neat.
Jill goes back to Florida, and she's hanging out with Jimmy, and all of a sudden, like the house, like the family house where Sally is, gets a call from Jill. She's just crying on the phone. She's like, "Can you come get me?" And she comes and gets her right away. She instantly drives to go get her. She drives? She flies? I don't know.
I think she flew.
And she's like in a motel, and she's telling her like, yeah, like we were driving all over, and we were zigzagging, like it was crazy, and all of a sudden,
He
like,
like got mad and punched her in the face.
yeah, he punched her. She had a shiner on her face.
A shiner, I've never heard of a face bruise or whatever she had. A shiner. That's
Yeah, if
a
it's like red
new
and
one.
shiny, then it's a shiner.
Oh, interesting. I mean, not interesting, that's bad. Like he's an abusive piece of shit. So
When Jill and Sally are about to leave, they look up and they see that it's a blood moon. And Jill's like, "Oh my God, it's a blood moon. I need my tiger's eye," which she left in Jimmy's car. And she goes to get it, and Jimmy's waiting in the back seat with a gun. A gun? Yeah, right?
mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And she makes Sally drive them. I don't really know where he's trying to go, but he's like drinking in the back seat, and he's like, "Why don't you drink, Sally?" And when she doesn't drink, he threatens to brand Jill with his ring that's like shaped like a skull.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
yeah, and then well, don't worry, he dies. And then
Multiple times. He dies multiple times.
So Sally takes the bottle and drinks it. Oh, and also some part we missed. Something that Jill told us when she was visiting Sally initially to comfort her. She's like telling her about Jimmy, how he's this amazing lover or whatever, and how they're just obsessed with each other. But she says because they're so obsessed with each other, she has to like drug him to like so she can get some sleep, which sounds like a super healthy relationship.
Yeah, red flags abound. Yeah, she uses belladonna to drug her boyfriend so that she can get shut-eye, is what is the way that like Sally described it. She like posed it as a question. She's like, you have to drug your boyfriend to get like any shut-eye? Don't you think that's like a little iffy? And she's like, meh. So
yeah, and belladonna is deadly nightshade, for the record. Okay, I can't tell if you're like frozen in like shock or if you're actually frozen.
I think she's actually frozen because I get a black screen.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Her internet went out. No. I wrote down so much about belladonna and mugwort and blessing seeds.
I'm so obsessed with this movie. I love how it touches on like herbal witchcraft and spells and like textbook witchcraft and like all the things, and it's just so empowering, I feel like, to witches and also just women, especially like there's so much I want to talk about, and I hope Kai's internet pulls through and we can like actually dive in and analyze stuff.
I'm questioning why the movie's called Practical Magic, besides the fact that like I like as a witch know that it's practical magic, but like they don't say it, they don't read it, like I don't know.
I was thinking like, oh, it's practically magic, but it's not practically it literally is magic. So, and it's not like, yeah, practical in the sense like, oh, I need a quick way to kill my abusive boyfriend, how can I do like so practical. Oh, I'm just gonna use this like deadly herb, but I don't really know either.
That's the one part that isn't practical, is the whole resurrection part.
Yeah,
not so practical.
That's very impractical, right?
Yeah, or realistic. We've never had issues before. This is our first time like dealing with issues ever.
Damn, I'm bad luck.
No. She has risen.
That was a shit show.
Yeah, but you're the ringmaster of the shit show.
Oh, we were talking.
Yeah, wait, where did we leave off, Kaija? Where did you stop hearing things?
Belladonna.
Belladonna, okay.
And I was like, but belladonna is toxic, and then everything stopped.
Oh no.
It sounds like your computer got belladonna.
My computer did get belladonna'd.
You were sitting there like, and I don't know if you were like feeling that way and just like frozen in that emotion, or if you were actually frozen.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was like, I wonder if she likes it so far. I wonder if we're selling it well enough.
So
that was
when she drugs her boyfriend with the belladonna, which is deadly nightshade, she would just put a little pinch in there. So when they're
enough to, let the toxins build up over time.
And I have a lot of information about belladonna, but we'll get there in a little bit.
She's toxic.
Yes, it is toxic. But
don't you know that you're toxic? Sorry.
When Jimmy hands Sally the bottle of alcohol as she's driving, she takes a sip, but then she puts it between her legs and she puts belladonna in there. But she puts like a ton in there, like a lot. And at some point during the drive, he starts to choke Jill. And then this is when they're parked on the side of the road, I think.
I have to ask, because I like, I don't know the story completely yet, but why would they bring his ass back to life if he was a piece of shit? Listen, I know Stockholm syndrome is a thing, right?
No, Jillian did not have Stockholm syndrome. I mean,
what the fuck?
We're kind of getting to why they did bring him back. So basically, like she said, they're in the car and Jimmy is basically strangling Jill, just like being his normal like drunken abusive self. obviously Sally freaks out and like comes to her sister's defense and starts like smacking the shit out of the guy, like to try and
She
get him to
should.
stop.
Yeah, she should.
Right. Yeah, as she should. And then eventually he like stops and Jill is like, okay, Sally, stop. He's like knocked out. Think like they're both thinking like, oh, he's stopped like fighting, he's just knocked out. But then they pull him up and like kind of sit him more upright and he's dead. So basically like Sally accidentally like poisoned him, like she killed him. So that's, I think, kind of why they're like, okay, we got to fix this. And so they bring him back to life so that they won't be like found guilty of murder or whatever, even though like you could argue, and they had mentioned in the movie, it was definitely self-defense because this guy was ready to kill Jillian, if not both of them. But um so basically that's what happens. And then Kyla, since you're like the practicing witch, you can talk a little bit about how like the spell that they do to like try and bring him back to life, because that part's pretty cool, but I feel like I'm not educated enough to speak on it.
So like the spell I do to bring him back to life, I didn't really get much from it, to be honest, except for the fact that they call on Hekate or Hekate. I'm not sure which way is the right way to say it, but they say it wrong for sure. They call her Hekate, which is incorrect, and I was really annoyed by that.
Ah, heck. Sorry.
Ah, Hekate.
I thought it was Hekate.
That's still better than Hekate. They call on her probably because she's associated, like, partially she's associated with maidenhood and purity, but the other part of her is associated with like death and the life cycle. Because a lot of times when you see Hekate, she's represented by the mother, the maiden, the crone. She's like three-bodied, three-headed. So that's probably why they called on her, even though they didn't, because they pronounced her name wrong.
So, okay, so they pronounced her name wrong, but, well, did that just mean like, okay, so you know how like when you think you see your friend across the street, so you're like, oh, hey, Joyce, but it's not actually Joyce, so not Joyce, ignores you? Like, so they called on Hekate, but they were intending to call on Hekate, but Hekate, whoever the fuck Hekate is, was like, yeah, I'll help. And Hekate was just like, I don't know who the fuck this Hekate bitch is.
I like that theory.
Like,
Maybe,
is it like
yeah.
that's okay. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm subscribing to. I didn't really get anything else like from their resurrecting him besides the fact, like, the only thing I can really recall is that they had to poke needles into his eyes. And
Whose eyes?
Jimmy's corpses. But
What kind
if you
of
actually
needles?
if you look, they don't actually like get the needles through the eyes before he like opens them and like kind of wakes up,
Yeah.
which I thought was interesting. Like they didn't even have to do that step, I guess. Like the spell just worked out enough without that one step for him to wake back up.
It's because they called on Hekate and not Hekate.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, he wakes up and he goes crazy, and he goes after Jill, and he's like kind of choking her, holding her, just all up in her business. And he's like, I want to marry you. I want to like love you. Let me love you or whatever.
Yeah, he's like 10 times worse than he was when he was like alive the first time.
He's like monstrous.
Yeah.
Which they said when I keep wanting to call her Sarah. When Sally's husband died, she went through the family grimoire and she's like, I know you can bring him back. Like, I know you can do it. I know you talked about it before.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but if we bring him back, he's not going to be himself. He's going to be something dark and monstrous. And so that's what they did for Jimmy. So
because he already was like dark and unnatural anyway. And she's like, so what'll be the difference? But it's like he still like sucks. He's sucked in his life and he sucks more in the afterlife. So
they kill him again. After they
What?
brought him back to life, they kill him again.
Because he's a dick or what?
Because he's like trying to kill Jill again. I think their whole concept when they killed him the first time was like, okay, we'll kill him, or well, no, they weren't planning on that, but we'll bring him back to life. And then I don't know. I think maybe they wanted to drive him somewhere far away where
And then
he
just leave him,
Or
right?
they
Where
yeah,
he'll-
leave him
push him
somewhere.
off a cliff.
Well, they just didn't want to be found guilty for murder because like Sally has kids, and I don't know. I don't think it was the best plan, but would I have come up with something better? I don't know.
yeah, like they were stuck between a rock and a hard place. And Sally throughout the movies, like, I always have to clean up your messes, like, even like, this big mess, like her trying to, like, save her from her crazy ex-boyfriend, and then like unexpectedly having to deal with his death and his second death and all this stuff. And it's like, definitely didn't I don't think it could have gone like, I don't know. It didn't go like how they planned. Like, she was not even thinking. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know
Right.
like what really happens after that.
They kill him and then they bury him in the
Yeah.
yard. And it's raining and whatever. Jill says, like, I know this is not a great time to be saying this, but like, thank you for being my sister, because like they are literally burying a dead body right now. And then the next day, the aunts, because the reason they're able to do all this in the house is because the girls, Sally's daughters, went to a solstice celebration with the aunts. And before they left, like, Sally's like, I don't want them dancing naked under the full moon. And she's like, the aunt's like, oh, that nudity is fully optional or whatever.
Yeah.
So the next morning they come back. This is one of the few times I think the girls have ever met Jill, and they like immediately love her. And then the aunts haven't seen Jill in a while either, so they say hi, and they see the bruise on her face. They're like, oh, well, whoever gave you that will get what's coming to him. The other one says a little mugwort will fix that right up. And I was like, I don't know about that. So I looked it up. So topically, mugwort can be used to relieve itching caused by visible raised scars.
So like when you get a tattoo.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that actually, because recently I got a tattoo and it has been like bothering me lately, and it's been like itchy and like a little raised. So duly noted, I will try some mugwort.
Yeah. I got some mugwort facts. Y'all want some mugwort facts?
Spit them facts.
Okay. The thing about like magical correspondences, right? Like, for example, like, like amethyst is supposed to help with sleep or whatever. Usually with herbs, magical correspondences are related to the medicinal benefits of the plant. So like when you think of roses, like what do you think of?
Rose hip,
Well,
or like I don't know, rose waters in like a lot of skincare these days, I feel like.
No, like conceptually, like what do you think of when I say roses?
Oh, love.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so it's used for almost like relationship, they're like healing within relationships, romantic healing kind of thing.
Yeah, and like I looked up.
Sorry, I'm still laughing about how I thought about that way too hard. I was like, but I don't know, like rose, we have like a vanilla rose matcha special drink at work right now. I'm like, that's not what she's asking.
That sounds
sorry,
really good.
Laughing at myself. It is good. It's tasty.
I looked up the physical attributes of like roses, and they're an aphrodisiac. Like if you have rose oil, it's an aphrodisiac. So if it's an aphrodisiac, that's how we got it connected to romance and love, because so
sexy.
mugwort can be
Hot.
used for healing. And it's weird because I looked up some historic facts and some folkloric facts. So like Saint John the Baptist was said to wear a girdle of mugwort to relieve stomach pain. And then people saw him do that. And because he was a saint, people started wearing wreaths of mugwort to repel evil spirits.
Does that have anything to do with St. John's wort?
Well, mugwort and St. John's wort, I don't know if they're related.
Let me find out. I'll do the Google search.
Kaya with the Google search. Kaya's the Google agent. Because I know like St. John's wort is like the closest thing to like a natural happy pill, like an antidepressant
I know they
almost.
look very different. I can tell you
Yeah.
that.
So that's just interesting to me, like hearing that he was someone who
Mugwort
used
is the
mugwort.
cousin of Wormwood and St. John's wort.
Okay.
I hate how it's spelled.
With an O.
Wort.
Mugwort.
Mugwort is not, all caps, St. John's wort. They are quite different plants and chemistry, although they may both grow in the same region, is what somebody on Richter said.
Something else is people put mugwort in their shoes to prevent tiring. And this was said initially as a folkloric thing, but then, like, it's also said to relieve achy muscles. I saw somewhere.
Shut the fuck up. Where do I get some of this shit?
I got some. I'll hook you up.
I'll hook you up with strawberry candy lip balm.
It's often used to treat digestive problems, irregular menstruation,
Shut up.
anxiety, high blood pressure.
Don't
It's
tell
used
me
as a
borderline
liquid.
personality disorders on there.
It's not on there.
Damn it.
It's
So close.
purported to help you enhance your dreams, recall your dreams better, and even lucid dream. But obviously there's no proof of that because you can't prove that you dreamed anything. Mugwort is technically a psychoactive plant, but you have to consume quite a bit to hallucinate. That being said, you know that I'm gonna try some lucid dream tea with mugwort. However, it's very, 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 very bitter. So I'm gonna figure it out and I'll report back. People also smoke mugwort, but it's not good for you. The smoke is very unhealthy. There's like cancerous fumes in there. Don't do that. I'm saying that for anyone listening and also you, although I don't think you'd smoke it, but like just don't do it.
Okay, so regarding the bitter taste, chug it. I did that with some wine last night. It was some dry wine. I'm not a big fan of dry wine. And I just grabbed a straw and put that straw back in my mouth and I was like
Just like that.
just like that.
Like they're so bitter. Like I saw somewhere that they used to be used to flavor beer before hops were discovered. So like that's the level of bitterness we're talking.
I need to ask, what the hell are hops?
Listen,
I don't know shit about beer.
do you know more than I do about hops?
The best way I can describe it, I've been on like a brewery tour and like was told all this stuff about all the ingredients, including hops, and the only thing I can say is like it comes from a plant that's like a cousin of the marijuana plant, and that's like honestly all I know. So
Listen,
it's very, I mean, it's like very herby. Like when you have a beer and you're like, oh, this one's got like a hoppy taste, that's like you're actually tasting like what the plant sort of like tastes like when it's like fermented, you know.
when people say hops when it's in regards to alcohol or that something tastes hoppy, the first thing that comes to my mind is rabbits.
Right. Like it's
Valid.
happened. It's so good. It's happened like a bunny. No, basically it's like a very like earthy, planty taste, I guess.
Beer is hopping.
It's some hopping beer, babes.
My lip
It'll
gloss
make you
is
hop,
popping.
like jump for joy, hop.
My
So
lip gloss is popping, but your beer is hopping.
exactly. Oh my God, keep that in there, Kyla. That's so funny.
Yeah, I'm keeping that in there. So I wrote down like the magical uses of mugwort, which is very short. Protects against fatigue, injury, and poison. Which, like, personally, I would never use something magical to prevent injury or poison, but maybe that's just me. It's used to enhance psychic vision because of the psychoactive effects, and it's also associated with Venus due to its healing attributes.
Ooh.
And I wrote all this stuff, and at the end of it, I just put, all this being said, does a bruise count as a visible raised scar?
No,
That's what I said.
I've seen enough medical dramas to know that a bruise is not a scar. It is simply a bruise where the blood vessels underneath your skin got ruptured.
Yeah.
And bruises don't itch. So, like, when she said, let's put some mugwort on that, I immediately was like,
Bullshit.
Hold on a second. Yeah.
I don't know, Oddjet. Like, I don't know. Mugwort tangent over. I do have two more herb related tangents, but one is at least more related to the story. But we will get to those later.
Does that one help with borderline personality disorder? Am I going to find
Um,
a cure tonight?
I don't think so.
Listen, I have my next therapy appointment tomorrow. Listen, if I could go in there and be like, Michael, you'll never believe this. My
You're
witch friend,
fired because I found an herb that works.
my witch friend is helping me and she found a cure. And he'd
I
be
don't
like,
need to see you anymore.
he'd be like, you need to stay. You need to stay. It's therapy. You need to stay.
Blessing seeds, I remember reading that they there is some evidence that they're effective with chronic conditions that are mental and also physical. So there's that. And it's also one of the top ranked evidence-based herbal medicines. So I spent a lot of
Ooh.
time reading about that.
I love that we have evidence now of like holistic healing and like natural healing herbs instead of like, you know, like focusing all of our scientific method madness on like drugs, like man-made, like human laboratory made drugs, like pharmaceuticals. I don't know. It's cool.
Yes.
I'm glad there's like science, like and literature about herbs and stuff. It's cool.
Big agree. And like, I'm just gonna say this now. I found two really interesting medical journal entries about blessing seeds or Nigella sativa or black cumin. And I'm just gonna put
Ooh.
those in the show notes. I'm not gonna quote them because they're super fucking long. So if you want to read those, they're there. Anyways, let's get back to the movie, maybe.
Yeah,
Kyla,
okay,
maybe let's
so
get back to the movie.
might be a good idea. That's why we have gathered here virtually. They come home from their solstice retreat, and at first everything almost seems like it's back to normal, and they have but this is one of my favorite scenes in the movies, like where the aunts, like Aunt Frances and Aunt Jet, pretend to be like they verbalize as if they're like making some kind of potion in like a cauldron, but they're actually just putting like, and they are probably putting like some good like witchy herbs in there, but they're really just making like frozen margaritas in a blender. And that's really funny because like you can hear like the sound from all the way up. They have like the spiral staircase, so the camera pans like up the stairs, and Jilly is like waking up Sally, and she's like, wake up, it's they're making midnight margaritas. And so they go downstairs, and then they're all drinking and they get super drunk, and the song that I don't know what it's called, but
Lime in the
coconut. And
coconut.
is it just called coconut? I think it might just be called coconut.
Lime in the coconut. I don't know.
um and then side note, I also think it's really cute that like later in the movie there's like a very like innocent scene of one of Sally's kids, I think it was Antonia. She was playing the song on her kazoo.
Yes. Oh my God. And the
I
mom
thought that
goes
was
like,
so cute.
the mom goes, "Can I see that?" And she gives it to her and she's like, "Thanks." And she fucking chucks it across the room. And me and Andrew were both like, "Fucking me."
That was so funny. But anyway, back to the midnight margarita scene. So they're all like drinking and like shooting the shit and having a good time. But then all of a sudden, Aunt Frances and Aunt Jet start singing this song that Jimmy would sing when he was alive and drunk. It was like, I don't know, the song he always sang, and it was like that. I think it's an Elvis song. I don't know, I could be wrong about, but it's the one that's like, you were always on my mind, you were always on my mind. And naturally, Jill and Sally get freaked out, and they're like, why are they randomly singing that? That was like the song that Jimmy sang. And then they look at the bottle of like tequila that they're drinking, and it's the brand that Jimmy would drink. And so, their freak out intensifies, and they're like, where did you get this bottle? And the aunts drunkenly say like, oh, it was on, someone left it on the porch. And so they're like, oh God, Jimmy did this, like with his supernatural abilities, like somehow left this bottle on the porch. And so they freak out and they smash it, and the aunts are like, what the heck is going on? Like something doesn't feel right. They're like, um for lack of like a better way to put it, their witchy senses are tingling, and they're like, yeah, something's not right. And basically Sally goes like, we had a problem, so we handled it. And the witches are like, or the aunts are like, okay, well, you like made this mess, now you have to clean it up. So they basically like leave them to figure it out.
When they first found that bottle like on the table with the margaritas, like I was so nervous because it's tequila, right? Tequila goes in margaritas. I was like, is this the same tequila that had the belladonna in it? Did they mix the belladonna tequila into all the margaritas? Are they all gonna die now? It was
Oh
fine.
yeah, that's definitely like a valid worry when you first watch the movie, like what exactly is going on here, because there's so many like it's actually taken me a few watches of this movie to fully like process all of its like ins and outs and all of like the subtleties that are in it, because like it makes sense to me. I was like right away I'm like, oh, that's definitely the alcohol that Jimmy drank all the time, but I'm like, but wait, I've seen this movie like 50 million times. So I'm like kind of obsessed with it. But yeah.
Yeah, I love this movie. It's Kaya, you would, I mean, I think you would like it. It's really cute
I
and
think
it's
you'd
like,
like it. You should definitely watch it. Don't just take our summary for it. It's like I was when your internet was down, I was telling Kyla, I was like, this movie is just so much about like, especially towards like the end of it when kind of the whole community comes together to like kind of help them save the day when disaster strikes. It's just like really big on like community and women empowerment and witch empowerment, and like when women come together they are more powerful than ever, and it's just so cool.
I was
But
gonna say, I mean, if anything, I'll watch it for that kazoo singing.
no, it's so cool. But at some point um down the road they have this, there's like this private investigator, Gary, the one that you read in the summary. That online synopsis just does not do this justice. It's like, wait, you skipped over so many parts.
no.
Like it is so bad. So yeah, Gary, the private investigator, comes and starts asking all these questions because he's looking for Jimmy, but it like in the sense because he's like a missing person, but he's also like he has got a record, like he's got a really dense like criminal histories. Like we said, he's a bad dude, and he's done
What
shitty
year
things
is
to
this
other
movie from?
women. What?
1998.
Yeah.
Okay, so they couldn't just like quick Google search what the fuck a red flag was.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Something to mention is that like this, like first of all, we don't know why he's looking for Jimmy at this point. Like we know why he might be looking for Jimmy, but he hasn't said why he's looking for Jimmy. And also he's from Arizona, so like he's a long ways from home. So like
Right.
something is up.
It's like, why are you here? Yeah. But yeah, he basically like comes to Salem, and also worth noting, by the way, that at this point Jillian is like full time back to staying in Salem, like at the house with Sally and the aunts. Like no way that after that traumatic of an experience she could just go back out into the world and do her own thing. She like wants to be with her family. But Gary is staying in town to kind of like monitor things and sort of just follow all of them around and ask the community questions about them, because he at this point he's like got his suspicions about like, you know, where Jimmy could be and why he's missing and like what do these girls have to do with it, blah blah blah. All the while though, basically Sally is like very fond of him. She's like crushing on him. Like she's having a hard time, you know, lying about what actually happened to Jimmy and how they're involved with it. Like she's having a hard time keeping their secret just because she's like she fancies him in a very strong way.
There's like a rose bush that grows where they buried Jimmy, and then one of the girls inside the kitchen, she's like, she's like, what are you staring at? And she's like, I'm staring at that man. And Sally's like, what man? And she's like, that man standing under the rose bush. It grew overnight. So Jimmy's like fully haunting the house and the property now.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that.
And then the detective's doing more detective stuff. He's like Lyssa said, he's asking the townspeople who like never liked this family. They always thought they were weird
Mm-hmm.
because they are witches, and um sometimes they do magic on them. Sometimes it's accidental, sometimes it's not. Like at one point Sally is inside her shop. She owns a shop where she sells lotions and soaps, and she sees her kids outside and they're like walking home from school or whatever. And then a bunch of kids come up to her and they're all like, witch, witch, witch. And her mom tries to break it up, but then Antonia or Kylie, I don't know which one it is,
Mhm.
but
Kylie's the
she,
redhead and Antonia's the brunette, I think.
yeah, one of them points at a kid that was teasing her, and she was like, I hope you get chicken pox. And then later in the movie you see him with chicken pox. And like as all the kids were walking away, Sally says to her, like, we don't cast. And she's like, you don't cast, and just because you don't use your magic doesn't mean we shouldn't have to use our magic, and blah 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 blah. So yeah, the people of the town don't like the family already. So like if there's a missing man, they probably had something to do with it. Like, I'm not saying they murdered him, but maybe they shook their hand and he
Just
what
keeled
did I say?
over. Yeah.
Yeah, just keeled over. He comes back to the house and he talks some more with Sally. And she kind of talks a little more openly about the craft. And he's a little weirded out. And she's like, I deal with plants and make soaps and lotions, and my aunts like to meddle with people's love lives. He's like, people are saying you're devil worshippers, and she's like, no, that's not what we do.
While he's like there kind of questioning and interviewing Sally, like Jillian and then Sally's two daughters are in the kitchen trying to make like a pancake recipe that includes magical herbs that will like convince him basically to like leave. Like they want to like send him away. Basically I think Jillian just kind of wants to get him like out of their hair so that, I guess maybe they don't get in trouble. Maybe is that why?
Yeah.
I don't know. She just wants to send him away. And so but while they're doing that, one of the daughters like stumbles upon this spell that Sally cast when she was little, because when she was little and would see, how much like falling in love would affect other people, so much so to the point that they would consult the ants to try and like make basically like love potions to get people to fall in love with them. And they were just like so tortured and like torn up about just like love. And Sally saw that and she was like, oh God, I hope I never fall in love. And whereas like Jillian was like, I can't wait to fall in love. Like, and then we know how that pans out. But basically, Sally like tries to prevent herself from ever being able to fall in love by casting a spell to invent her perfect guy who would like never exist. Like she intended for this person to never exist. And then it ends up being Gary. Like he has all the qualities that she put in her spell. And then her daughters like kind of slowly start to realize that. And they ask him all these questions. Like one of his qualities is like he can ride a pony like forwards, backwards, sideways, like any way. He has one green eye, one blue. And they like realize like, oh my God, this is the guy that like was in mom's spell. And like we can't send him away, like he has to stay so that he can like he and mom can like fall in love. So they basically like sabotage the recipe, and Gary and then like the two like Sally and Jill are both like, what the heck are they doing, what's going on? And more stuff about their involvement with Jimmy Angelo starts to kind of bubble over. And something to do, I don't know why, like what was like the symbolism of having like frogs, toads be like kind of what was left in Jimmy's wake, but there's a frog and it like coughs up his ring. And
Yeah.
it was the same ring that he like would use to brand other women in his past.
Yeah.
And Gary recognizes it right away, right? Because he's a detective, he's studied a lot of evidence. So immediately he's like, okay, what do you think you're playing at? Like what is going on? Where is Jimmy? Like is he dead, alive? Like what is happening? Things are kind of escalating, getting worse with Jimmy. And he starts to really like mess a lot more with Jillian. Meanwhile, she and Sally got into a fight, and Sally runs and goes to the detective to just confess everything that happened, to be like, yes, I killed Jimmy. But that doesn't really go very well, and they end up like doing this whole like heavy makeout session. And then after that, Sally starts to sense like something's going on, something's going wrong with Jillian. Like they're related and they're witches, so they basically have this like telepathic like ability to like sense whenever, the other one's in trouble. So she runs home and finds Jillian possessed by Jimmy, basically. And like the daughters are like freaking out.
Gary follows
Yes.
Sally to the house, and he sees Jimmy's ghost like rise out of Jillian's body, and he's like kind of corporeal, kind of not, and like they're kind of circling each other. Gary's having a moment because like, oh my god, ghosts are real. And Jimmy comes at Gary, but Gary holds up his sheriff's badge, and it's silver, and it like burns a star-shaped, like really gross star-shaped thing into Jimmy's hand. And so he kind of like uses it as a shield, and it like kind of makes Jimmy dissipate.
He tells Sally, like, I'm sure you'll explain all this to me later. He's like completely bewildered.
And then earlier when they're having breakfast, and the magic thing they were making with the blessing seeds in it, the blessing seeds were to rid unwanted visitors, which is why I even looked them up in the first place. I wanted to see if that's actually.
Oh shoot, I'm so sorry. I like breezed right over that. That's where they use the blessing seeds.
Well, so like they made the magic syrup for the pancakes, and then once the girls realized it was him, the guy from the spell, they threw it over the cliff. And after Jimmy sees the ring get coughed up by the frog, he's like, you guys better lawyer up. And then he's like, what was in that syrup? Because now he's like, oh my god, they were trying to poison me or something. And now, he knows ghosts are real at this point. Is it after that Jill starts to get like sick and more possessed?
Yeah, it just like it worsens. Like it was the whole thing with like the defense using like the silver star was basically just kind of a temporary repellent for him. Possession symptoms, I guess, just keep getting like a lot worse, and eventually Sally leans on like help from the community full of people who like don't like her or her family for their like witchcraft, and she finally just comes out and says it like directly. She's like, yeah, I'm a witch. And then she has like a couple of ally friends who work for her in her botanical shop, and they're like, oh my god, she finally came out, this is so awesome. And they've been like advocates of hers all along. They're like witch yes, evil no. Like they're not doing, like Kyla said, they're not doing like devil magic or whatever. Like this is how it is. She's actually like pretty neat person, blah blah blah. So like they come to the rescue, and then so do like the people who kind of like shunned the Owens family. Like they even come to help too, because their neighbors are like in need. And the reason that they have to even come and help in the first place is because in order to perform like the spell that they need to save Jillian's life, they need a whole coven of at least 9, 12 ideally. So basically, yeah, all these women come to help.
Each of them brings
Kyla.
a broom.
Kyla can talk more on like the ceremony part and the rituals.
Yeah, each of them has to bring a broom. One of them that comes was like a big bully of the girls, and Sally was like, surprised to see you here. And she's like, well, I've always wanted to see the inside of your house. And then one more shows up, and she's like, I hope this is okay. And she's holding like a handheld vacuum.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
For the ceremony, they get around Jill in a circle, and at this point, like Jill's like fully possessed. She's like, exorcism levels. Not exorcism levels. She's not vomiting or anything, but like she's sweaty, she's convulsing. So she's in the middle of the room, and they all get around each other, around her, and they
Okay. So she's sweaty, she's compulsing. Are we sure she didn't just need to poop really bad?
I mean, good question.
To do that too.
Because I don't know about y'all, but that's happened to me.
That's happened to me too.
And I
If someone is
that poop so hard.
And like if someone is taking over your body, like fully possessing you, there's not room for a person and the poop. So that's a good point.
Just saying.
It's a valid point. I don't think that's what was happening here, unfortunately.
Maybe not.
Unfortunately, I think a possession is worse than that, but only by a little. So yeah, they connect the broom handles to Bristle and they're like in a circle. And they start chanting Dite perdant te maledico. And I looked up what that means. And in Latin, it means God destroy you, I curse you, according to Google Translate. They just keep saying that over and over and over again. And at first, like, it doesn't work. And Jill is like, just let him take me. He just wants me. Just let him take me. And Sally's like, no, we said we were gonna die old together at the same time, so you can't die yet. Sally gets Jimmy to come out with a bottle of his favorite tequila. What does she do after she lures him out with the tequila?
She lures him out so that he like can lunge at her basically through like using Jillian's body, but then she also does like the blood ritual, which they actually did in the beginning of the movie too. When
Right.
Jillian first moved away, they said, which like nowadays I'm like, oof, like bloodborne illnesses, I don't know about this, but they basically like cut both their hands, and it's like your blood, my blood, our blood, and they put their like cut open hands together to like mix their blood. And so they do that again as part of like the this ceremony, and basically it kind of like, I don't know, utilizes and ignites like all of their memories together as like sisters all throughout their life to basically like chase out Jimmy, I guess. Like that is like the
Yeah.
best way I could describe it.
And I'm just gonna say, I've said this before on this podcast, but I'm gonna say it again. It's fine if you want to use blood in your practice, but like don't do things like this. It's not sanitary.
Right.
Don't do that. So yeah, that's how they banish him out of her body, and like he comes, I don't know, he comes out and like he turns into dust. And they use their brooms and they sweep him out, which is actually like very much a practical thing that witches do. They use brooms to cleanse, like energetically. Kaija, did you have a question?
I was just gonna say that his death sounded kind of like Voldemort's in the movie, not the book.
You know,
A little bit. Like
a
if
little.
if Jimmy knew as much as Voldemort did, he probably would have used the tequila bottle as a Horcrux.
So yeah, they sweep him out of the house, and like something that isn't quite accurate to how witches actually cleanses, they sweep him back to like where he's buried, but like if you were actually doing this, you would want to sweep like all the way off of your property to like banish something off of your property. But this is a movie and we're talking about witchcraft, so like, I'm giving them some leeway here. So yeah, then he's gone and everyone cheers and everyone's happy and they're fine and Jillian's fine and everyone's alive and it's great except for Jimmy. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, we hate Jimmy. We do not stand Jimmy. The one thing, so two like follow-up questions I have, like what okay, one, what is the potion that they use? Because they did have like an actual like black bubbling cauldron of a potion that they also used to kind of like extinguish Jimmy. Like they poured it over like the dust or the ashes or whatever that composed his spirit world self. And then second question, so like if they were to sweep him off the property, like would they just literally throw it in like a garbage bag and then just like take it to the dump, or like what would you do to actually like in real life cleanse with a broom and remove like remnants off your property?
I mean, in real life, like a ghost wouldn't turn into ash and you wouldn't be sweeping the ash, So like energetically, like for example, if I was to cleanse the house, I would sweep clockwise from my door, starting on the left side of my door, go through the entire house, and then come out to the right side of my door and then sweep out of my door. I don't have a yard, so like it's a little easy for me. But for him, like, yeah, like anything you do that involves physical remnants, you want it like off your property.
Yeah.
And as far as this potion goes, I have no idea what that was. It looks
Okay.
like stew. It's orange. They don't say what's in it. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if I had just like missed something that, you know, they said like what were the ingredients or whatever, or if they just didn't even, and it was just like you just assumed it was a potion used for getting rid of toxic ex-boyfriends who were dead. So
Yeah, they said it's good for your pores, but that's all they said, I think.
so are blemish patches. Like what?
I could use a potion to get rid of my toxic ex-boyfriend.
Hell yeah, couldn't we all? Or
I could
ex-girlfriend.
That one's for you if you ever listen.
I could teach you a thing or two to get rid of them.
Nice.
You don't bother me anymore. I just want him gone.
What do you mean by gone?
He pretended he had cancer.
Well, what do you mean by gone? Like, where do you want him to go?
Non-existing. Not
Just
dead.
not in your like.
Just never existed.
I don't think I have anything for that. Sorry.
Well, that is a big ass
Damn.
problem.
So that I think that's basically the end of the movie. And then like Gary sends them a letter that basically like vindicates them of and exonerates them of anything related to Jimmy, and somehow he makes it so that the death was like accidental, or at least like in the legal eye, like his death was accidental. And then at this point, like he had gone back to Arizona, but basically Sally decides that, you know, she actually does want to like pursue things with him, and like she's in love with him, he's in love with her, so she kind of like calls him, like summons him back, and he comes back and they like do the whole love thing. And then the movie ends with them around Halloween time, they actually dress up as like how, you know, you would imagine a witch dresses up in like a black cloak and a big like black pointed hat with broomsticks, and all six of them, like the aunts, the two sisters, and then the two children, all jump off the roof with the roof of their house with like these big umbrellas, and they just float down, and that's how the movie ends.
I really thought you were going to say they dress up as a cop and a witch.
No. God,
What is Henry
weird.
or what is he dressed up as?
A civilian. Like, I don't think he's dressed up at all. What a loser. He's dating a witch and he doesn't dress up for Halloween. Dump
That
him.
is so lame. I just called him Henry. Where the fuck did I get that name? His name is Gary. Jesus.
He honestly, he does give Henry vibes. I don't really know why they picked the name Gary. Imagine being in love with a man named Gary. Wait, Kyla, what's your boyfriend's name? I'm sorry.
It's Andrew.
Andrew. I was like, shit, I'm gonna feel really bad if Kyla's boyfriend's name is Gary.
What if I told you Tony's real name was Gary?
Who?
I said, what if I told you Tony's real name was Gary?
Oh my god.
I wouldn't believe you.
It's not.
I could just shout for him. I'd be like, Tony, what's your real name? It better not be Gary.
I have some fun facts. It's gonna take me like a minute to tell you what they are, because they're all spread out. Because I wrote like a fucking dissertation. Like when I tell you I hyper fixated on the 3 herbs that I found in this movie, like I'll start with belladonna. We all know that it's nightshade and it's toxic. Its other name is Atropa belladonna. And I wasn't originally going to mention this, but I kept seeing it in every single source that I read. The name Atropa comes from Atropos, which is one of the 3 fates from the Greek myth, and it's the fate that cut the thread of a person's life. And
Makes
then people used to use the juice of nightshade berries to dilate their eyes to make them look more seductive. So it was like a cosmetic product. However, this can cause farsightedness, visual distortions, increased heart rate, and even blindness.
So,
I mean, that makes sense. Like this deadly herb and like is deadly. That was redundant. Deadly herb is deadly. And so let's put it directly on our eyes to make ourselves pretty, regardless of the harmful potential side effects.
so they just like eyedroppered that shit into their eyeballs?
Mm-hmm.
Shit.
Because it was sexy.
But I guess, you know, if it's sexy, then
Yeah,
fine.
that is
Yeah,
fine.
beauty is pain.
Beauty is death.
Belladonna is used as a recreational drug for the purpose of the hallucinations, but there's an incredibly high risk for unintentional overdose.
Really? You don't say.
I didn't know it was used recreationally at all, so I was very surprised to hear this.
Listen, the thing that I know about belladonna is that Julia Tofana from ancient Rome used to sell potions that were made out of belladonna, and they were disguised as beauty products, and women would go to see her when they had abusive husbands, and they would get this poison potion and they would mix it into their food because it didn't taste of anything, and they would die a painful, icky death. But it was designed as a beauty product, and this was going and going and going for 600 men for years and years, and somebody got cold feet and she got exposed.
Damn.
Anyway, Bailey Sarian did a whole episode on Aqua Tofana and Julia Tofana. That story reminds me of the story that you have, Kyla, the Lost Apothecary, which have you read or no?
I did.
Okay, so that story is like based off of the Lost Apothecary, I believe. But I guess this also happened many other times in history. So, yeah, yep, belladonna.
And then there was an attractiveness spell in folklore that I found really interesting. It's just off Wikipedia, but it was an ancient folk tradition of the Romanian Ukrainian region of Bukovina. Sorry. It's the ritual for a girl to enhance her attractiveness by making an offering to deadly nightshade. She entered the fields on a Sunday in her Sunday best, accompanied by her mother, bringing a bag of bread, salt, and brandy. She would dig up a deadly nightshade root and leave 3 offerings in its place. As she returned home, she carried the root on top of her head. On the way both to and from home, she avoided all quarrels and arguments. If asked by anyone on the way back what she was taking home, she would not divulge the truth or the spell would break.
You think my mom would help me with that?
Okay, yeah, I wanted to talk about blessing seeds for a second because they're like, because I said before, they're one of the top ranked evidence-based herbal medicines. So like, if you want to read about them, go for it. I'm just going to mention like, these are just like seeds, right? Black cumin. You can use them for skin disorders, antibacterial. In Islamic literature, it's considered one of the greatest forms of healing medicine. It can be used as an antiseptic and local anesthetic topically. A seed.
Wow.
Like, what? I read in one of the medical journals that like there is some evidence that it can help with HIV and AIDS. I found it fascinating. And
no, this is so cool. It's crazy how much like there's so much stuff that just grows out of the ground that we can use for like healing purposes. Just by like foraging and like looking for herbs in the wild. Like what? That blows my mind.
Magically, it's used for binding, blessing, healing, and ridding an unwanted guest, which is what they use it for in the movie. The blessing and healing makes sense. I think it might be used for binding because it's said that they taste like black pepper and oregano, which is for protection, and onions, which is for banishing. That was my best guess, but yeah, I'm gonna become an herbologist now, I guess. I don't know. I'm just gonna spend all my time reading herbal medical journals.
Yeah,
that
you could
are
open up your own shop just like Sally did in the movie with like all of this really powerful like natural medicine.
that would be so fun.
It'd be
I would
cool.
love that. So Kaya, did we convince you to watch it?
Yeah, I'll probably watch it with one of y'all.
It's so cute and
Or both
fun.
of y'all.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll have a movie night.
Do you guys want to see my favorite fidget toy?
Yes. I felt like there's like more I wanted to touch on, but no, it's just my mind is blank
Oh.
because I mean we did just summarize the whole movie. Well, anyway, yeah, thank you both for having me on the show. I love movies. I think witchcraft is very cool. It's been fun. It was the first time I was on a podcast.
Yay! Thank you for joining us.
Yay! Thanks
Do
for
you
having
wanna
me.
do you wanna share your social media? Like you don't have to, but you can if you want.
Sure. If anyone is like willing to listen or to follow along to my content, I am like a very long-winded person. I don't know when to shut up, but my Instagram handle is Alyssa Stearns, ALYSSA STEARNS. And I don't really do much on Twitter, but you can follow me there. My handle is, one second, let me look it up. Lystomania. It's basically Lystomania is like obsessively like listening to music, which I actually do, and it's like a play on words on like my name because sometimes I go by Lyss. So it's LYSSSTOMANIA. But I basically just like go on there to like retweet stuff. So
Like my tweets.
and like Kai's tweets, yeah.
Is there anything else we want to say before we go?
Be a
I feel
patron.
Oh
Oh
yeah. Right.
Does it makes the content better?
Yes. Yeah, okay. Let us know what you think by leaving a review. We would love to see some reviews. Follow us on social media at Movie Witch Pod and at the Movie Witch Podcast. If you like what you heard and want to help us grow and improve, please consider supporting us on Patreon for $2 or $7 per month. Our benefits include getting episodes a week early, unedited video versions of episodes where you can see our pets and our guests and
our funny faces.
Yeah,
I've been making those all evening because the ADHD is going fucking wild today.
Oh, and also exclusive Patreon bonus episodes.
I also do want to mention that if you do become a patron and we do get enough money for me to get a microphone, you might actually be able to hear this monkey fidget toys booty pops.
Nice. Imagine that, a world where everyone can hear the monkeys booty pops. Please, I want that. $2 a month for monkey booty pops. Come on, pay up.
Kaya, do you want to give your socials at the end of every episode or no?
Nah.
No?
If you want our social medias, then you have to go back and listen to the previous episode.
Okay. Good idea. Yeah. I think on the first episode we're good, and then the rest of the season you're gonna have to go back and listen to the whole season.
And listen to the
Put
whole
in the work.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to mention to people that in the month of February, I finished 7 books and it might reach 8 by tomorrow.
Oh my God.
Just in February?
Just in February,
That's
the
fun.
shortest month of the year.
Damn, Kaya.
Yeah.
Wild.
Okay, well that's it. We will talk to you next time. Bye, witches.
Bye.
Bye, witches.
Witches.